If you spent any time in the fitness world, then you have probably been told to stretch in some way to make your movement better and easier, right? We're often told that if we're tight, we need to stretch the thing that's tight, and we use some kind of position and then let gravity do the work. And eventually, we're just gonna move better. But here's the problem with that. Most of what we call stretching is only passive flexibility. And passive flexibility is not the same thing as active mobility. In the Resilient for Life system, we're not chasing the ability to touch your toes. We're chasing the ability to actually control joints through their fullest and functional ranges of motion. And today we're going to break down the science of why your brain, not just your muscles, is the key to moving freely. First, let's start off with just defining the difference between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is passive. It is the total range of motion available at a joint when some kind of external force like gravity or a partner or a strap is doing that work for you. Now, you can be really flexible and still have very little control over your ranges of motion. Mobility, on the other hand, is active. It is your ability to take your joints through their fullest ranges of motion using your own muscles to do it. Think about it like this. If you can pull your knee into your chest with your hands, that's flexibility. If you can actively lift your knee into your chest using only your hip flexors and core muscles, that's mobility. You see, mobility is active. It's active command over your anatomy. It's what you actually use in real life to pick up your kids, to squat down or climb in and out of the car, or reach for that thing way up on that high shelf. So the question here is, where does mobility actually come from then? Well, that's really kind of a two-part equation. First, you have tissue compliance. This is the physical length and the health of your muscles and the connective tissues. If a tissue is gunked up, so to speak, or chronically short, you're going to be limited before you even start. But, and this is the part that most people miss, the second piece is neuromuscular control. Your brain has to be able to send the signal to the muscles around the joint to contract and shorten, while simultaneously telling the muscles on the opposite side of the joint to relax and lengthen. This is a neural conversation. If you only train passively, you aren't actually training the nervous system to control any of that range. And this really brings us to something we call the law of specificity. You cannot expect to gain active control if all of your exercises are entirely passive. If you want to actually move better, you have to provide active exercises, active inputs. You have to train the brain to own the end range of motion. Finally, we have to talk about what governs the limit of your movement. We often think of the muscle as the thing that's tight, but the true governor of your joint ranges of motion is actually the joint capsule itself and the joint space. Think of that joint capsule as the true physical governor of your movement. It's dense, fibrous tissue that completely surrounds a joint. And it is absolutely packed with something we call mechanoreceptors, which are specialized nerve endings that act as high-speed data sensors. And here's the critical part. The capsule is constantly feeding information to the brain about your joint's position, the tension that the tissues feel, and the overall health of the joint and the surrounding tissues. It's a continuous loop of sensory input. If the capsule is stiff or restricted, or it hasn't been moved through its full capacity, the brain's going to receive only partial data. Maybe even think of it as noisy data, incomplete. And when the brain doesn't have clear data, it doesn't have a clear map of what's happening at that joint. And it's going to view those end ranges as danger zones. And it'll ultimately send signals to all the muscles surrounding that joint to tighten up as a proactive, protective mechanism. It's trying to keep you safe from what it perceives to be as an unstable or unsafe position. This is why the focus on capsular stimulation is so important. By performing controlled, specific rotational movements, we aren't just moving. We're sending high quality, precise data to the brain. We are essentially calibrating the sensors. Once the brain receives this updated, good, clean information from the capsule, it feels confident enough to allow the muscles to release their protective tension and then facilitate a much a much deeper, more efficient neural conversation with the muscles surrounding your joints. So we aren't just tugging on muscles here. We are priming the operating system for the joint itself, that the muscles can then finally work the way that they were designed to. So, to recap, flexibility is what happens to you. Mobility is what you do. If you want to be resilient for life, you need to stop just pulling on your muscles, and you need to start training your active control. Through this course, we're going to apply this through the practice of controlled articular rotations and some hip 90-90 work. You'll see exactly how to transition from simply stretching to real active joint-specific mobility.